Hey Achievers, this is Maya, founder of Healthy High Achievers. Join our global community and create healthier routines to avoid burnout and feel more calm and healthy. Let's get to it. Hey Achievers, I really wanted to have Carrie Cohen on the show because she had such a relatable story of working really hard. She reached peak burnout in 2016, and it was the pandemic that saved her and helped her shift gears. And I know many of you can relate to the shift that the pandemic brought to you in your life. So some of you went back to being super busy now, and some of you really took those lessons from the lockdown to create a more balanced life right now. So welcome, Carrie.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Maya. I'm excited to be here.
Me too. So, a little bit more about Carrie. She's a psychotherapist for 25 years now. She helps couples who are navigating infertility by healing the trauma and stress, straightening their relationship, and ultimately improving their chances of conceiving. Now, Carrie's also a certified clinical hypnotherapist, a rapid transformational therapy practitioner, an integrative health coach, and a certified nutrition coach. Hello, high achiever. I love it. And Carrie, you've been really expanding your skill set and knowledge to adapt to your clients' need in, I feel, a very holistic way. So, how does it work? Like, do couples come to therapy and then receive hypnosis at the same time? Or how do you bring it all together?
Such a good question. So, over the years, as I've been practicing, I have always been in some sort of training as a practitioner and really expanding what it is that I can offer my clients as a way to really help them navigate whatever it is that they're dealing with in the most efficient, effective ways possible. And I'm really big on evidence-based methods as a clinician. So one of the reasons, in addition to the burnout, which we'll get to, I'm sure, but one of the reasons why I also transitioned into a coaching model with my clients is because it actually does give me more flexibility to have a holistic approach with my clients. So the way I bring it in is once I meet with a couple or an individual, because I do individual work, once I meet with my clients, I do a pretty comprehensive assessment to determine what it is that they need and how are we going to best meet those needs. So I'm thinking about things like, okay, so where is there some pretty significant gridlock that hypnotherapy would help? Where are there some lifestyle factors that we could probably improve on with some nutritional psychiatry approaches? And so the whole sort of premise about being able to practice in a very eclectic way is that you master one method before you then move on to learn another one. Otherwise, it's just sort of a hodgepodge of you're just sort of like throwing all these different methods
Yeah.
at your client. And so I really am very strategic about what I'm doing and how I'm approaching it based on what I'm being presented with at the time.
I love that because I know so many people who have that imposter syndrome of never feeling ready to work with clients. And then I can see people being in from one certification program to the next. They keep honing their skills before they're ready. And you're like, you know what? Just focus on that one skill, dive into that, practice it on your clients. And once you have that down, like it becomes a natural part of you, then you kind of explore and take on another certification program, another skill, right?
Absolutely. It's also a way to feel your own sense of competency in what you're doing. And so, yes, it's really, I would say, how I've organized myself professionally over the last 25 years.
I love that. 25 years. And I'd love to unpack today that pre pandemic Carrie and compare her to the post pandemic Carrie, because I feel there's a lot of inspiration and lessons for my healthy high achievers. So tell me a little bit about the time when you were more of an exhausted overachiever. When did you realize that you were overdoing it?
So pandemic happened March of 2020. So I would say so I had my daughter in 2009. I started my practice in like '03 is when I started my practice. And so I would say by 2013, I really slowed down when I had my daughter. I slowed down while I was pregnant. I slowed down right after I had her for about a good year. And then I started creeping back up again. And so I would say between probably 2016 to 2020, I was really at my peak burnout hustling days. And so I was, gosh, my schedule was grueling. I was just talking to a friend about this. So I would get up at 5. I would get up actually at 4:50 a.m. because I wanted to work out before I went to work. And so I would get up at 4:50, I'd work out, I would jump in the shower, I would get ready, and I would make a breakfast to take with me on the go to the office. And I would leave my house usually by 7 a.m. And typically the sun is not up here by that time. Would get to my office, start my sessions at 8, and I would work back to back all day. I would take 2 30-minute breaks, one for lunch, one for like a walk in the afternoon. And I would get home after 7 p.m. at night, eat dinner, veg out, go to bed, wake up to do the same thing again. So it was grueling. So I was financially was doing really well, but I was seeing so many clients. And come Thursday night, I didn't work Fridays. I didn't see clients Fridays. Come Thursday night, I just was so dead, like it completely burnt out. And then I would spend the weekend really trying to recoup my energy. And by Sunday night, I started to feel this sense of dread about the week to come.
Mm.
And it was really just a vicious cycle. And I just couldn't remove myself from it. So I did not have any physical conditions, although it is very common for people who are operating at that level over time to start to have physical conditions. So
Yeah.
I did not have any medical ailments as a result. But gosh, talk about the stress and the anxiety and the depression. I had a lot of mental health stuff going on. But I just sort of kept my eye on the ball and just had this tunnel vision, just doing what I was doing. And it was such a blessing for me when the pandemic happened from a professional standpoint. Of course, there was lots of other tragedy involved in that for me as well as many other people. But in terms of me really being able to take a step back, it was amazing at that. So I initially was even more burnt out when the pandemic happened because now I had all of these clients that I was seeing in person. I had all of these clients now on video. So talk about Zoom fatigue. So I went into a bit of a
Yeah.
mini crisis, but so did all of my other colleagues. So we were all in that together. So after about 4 months, I started to settle down and start to settle in because it looked like around that time, like, it's going to be a little while, 6 months, 12 months, maybe I started to settle in. And then I started to have a little bit of space in my mind because I was not commuting. I didn't have a long commute, but still, I didn't have to leave the house. When I had breaks during the day, I could just take space. I could leave my office. I wasn't in work mode. And I really started to take like a hard look at my life. I took a look at my values, what was meaningful to me, what I wanted out of life. So I'm 49 now. I was 46 then. And then started to lay out a plan about where I want to be in 3, 5, and 15 years. And then asked myself if what I was doing now was setting me up for that. And when the answer was no, I was really at a crossroads. I sort of couldn't hide from the reality at that point, right? So my defenses had come down, kind of the denial of what I was really doing to myself, to what end. And that really began the process of my transition.
Yeah. To what end? Like you said, back to back from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. for seeing all these people in person. And then on Zoom, which I know Zoom fatigue very well. I think we all discovered that during the pandemic. Even social life was Zoom, everything was Zoom. So, yeah, that made you realize, okay, I need to take this step back and reevaluate, hit that pause button and see what do I want to be in 3 years, 5 years, 15 years, And am I heading to that or not? Where am I heading? So instead of being stuck in that day to day busyness, you really just took that bigger perspective. And like you said, for some people, it's mostly physical symptoms. Some people really get sick more often, more colds, or just they feel physical effects or even chronic disease from burnout. But for you, it was mostly that depression. It was mostly that just exhaustion, needing those 3 days, 3 day weekends to recover, and then feeling that dread on Sunday evening. So, how
Mhm.
did you, apart from that zooming out and reevaluating, how did you kind of recover from that? Let's say that the mental suffering from burnout.
Yeah. So I had a massive upgrade in my lifestyle when I moved home. So I moved my office home. I created a really comfortable space. I'm really big on the space I occupy. I created a really comfortable space because I was initially operating out of my guest room. And after the next few months, when it looked like it was going to be a while, I really got rid of the guest room and transformed it into an office and a workout room, which was my space. It's also really quite nice when you can eat 3 home cooked meals every day with your spouse and your family. And so that was another lifestyle shift. I was no longer eating on the go, and I was not eating at 8 o'clock at night. And I was socializing while I was eating. So that was a big factor too. And then I got more sleep because I'm super protective of my sleep, but in order to wake up at 4:50 and get 8 hours, I would have to go to bed at 8:50 p.m., which was really hard if I wasn't getting home until after 7 and I had to eat and stuff. So it was hard to I couldn't wind down in that short amount of time. So I was also getting more sleep. So I would say nutrition, movement, and sleep, first off, had a huge impact on my quality of life, which then had just a reverberating effect on my mental health naturally. And so I could begin to then I started to have the space to think about, okay, so what do I want to do and how do I want that to look? And what I was really clear about was that what I was doing one-on-one therapy 4 days a week, back to back, 12 hours a day, was not sustainable. I couldn't imagine myself doing that 20 years from then, which would have put me at 66. And most therapists really are peaking in terms of their clinical skills, I would say in their 50s and 60s. You're wiser, you've seen a lot more. A lot about being a good therapist is about your experiences with clients. And so, when you're 25 and 30, it's really different compared to 50 and 60. So I knew that I hadn't even hit my peak clinical years yet, but I thought, oh gosh, this is just not, I just can't do this. So that was really when I started exploring other options and how I could transfer my skill set. And that's when I found coaching. And I actually started by taking a health coaching program, a 6-month health coaching program, because I was also just very interested in my own health, which I really enjoyed, which then led me to take a nutrition coaching program and a gut health program. And then I decided I really wanted to use that more as an ancillary modality, that I didn't really want to focus on being a health coach or a nutrition coach. I still wanted to, use my psychotherapy skills. So I spent a lot of time just trying out different kinds of experiences until I figured out where I was going to land. And I have an expertise in marital therapy and relationships. I also am married. I was divorced from my first husband. My current husband and I went to marital therapy, and I also had my own fertility journey from 2006 to 2009. So I sort of just married all of these elements of my personal and professional self together to create the focus that I was really going to work on with my clients in the online space.
Mm. I love that also from an entrepreneurial perspective of, some people think they need to pick something and pick their job, pick a niche, and then go for that, and just do that. But you had that path of learning different skill sets, seeing how it fits in, learning more about coaching, because all the lifestyle changes that you've had, and then realizing you kind of just want to integrate that. You still want to use your psychotherapist skills, and then bringing your personal experiences in as well to be focusing more on couples and fertility. And how does that work now, like today, compared to when you were having clients back to back 12 hours a day, but then on Zoom, how does it look different today?
So it really, in part, was a paradigm shift. So when I was working back to back with clients, basically, I'm my own hourly employee. I rarely took time in my day to do things other than see clients because I really felt like I was a slave to the billable hour. So once I moved home, started exploring coaching, and I spend a lot of time in my work week connecting with other practitioners, connecting with podcasters like yourself, connecting. So non-client time, which I really missed. I missed having the opportunity to have non-client time because being a therapist can be a very isolating, lonely profession. Although I'm talking to people all day long, they know nothing about me. I'm not talking about myself. We are completely focused on them. So it's really isolating in that way. And it was too inconvenient in my structure to be able to schedule regular time with people. Plus, people were not, the Zoom chats were not really as common anyway. I would have had to have gone out to lunch, and that would have taken 2 hours from my day. So first off, it's a paradigm shift where I really value this time as part of being an entrepreneur. So I work a lot more on my business, not just in my business, whereas previously I worked only in my business. And so that paradigm shift has really helped. And also, I'm still just doing one-on-one. However, my plan is to build out my group programs, my membership community. I'm really still feeling out what my clients want before I start creating that. So ultimately, my plan is to have just a handful of one-on-ones and really be working in groups with my clients so that I have more space in my day. I would really like to have more space.
Yeah. So on the one hand, it's saying, okay, how can you have less one-on-one, but create more group membership, create more space there to still have that income and working in your business, but creating space for also working on your business and having these chats with me like right now. This hour, no one is paying you, no one is paying me, but we love sharing these journeys and these stories with our audience. And that's important to also show your face. And I know you're active on your Instagram as well. And I love the messages you bring there, and just seeing how we can bring that message to a bigger audience that's not only just the clients that we work with, and then no one outside of that like hears anything through any medium, right? So is that working on and in your business? And then there was a really good point that you said of you're working with people the whole day long, but still it can be very lonely. And I think not only for psychotherapy, but I recently read that so many people wanted to become entrepreneurs during the pandemic and working from home. And then after a couple of years, you realize it can be pretty lonely,
Mhm,
because you're
mhm.
serving people, you're serving clients and working from home. You don't have an office, you don't have colleagues. So working from home definitely has that advantage of having those home cooked meals with your spouse and your family and having those routines, not having to commute. But then also the other part of being in this room. Like you created a space for yourself. I created this office, which is my office slash meditation space. And that is important, but still you're alone, right? You don't have those colleagues. What are your strategies today? Just to dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, so I usually have a one lunch out a week with a local person on a Friday since I still don't see clients on Fridays. So I usually do one lunch out a week with typically with some type of colleague slash friend. I have weekly Zoom chats with another coach friend that I met online almost 2 years ago. I am in a few groups, one of which is a mastermind, and we meet on Zoom few times a month, and then we have in-person retreats. So I keep myself pretty socially connected. Now, for people who worked in a corporate office where there were a lot of people around, I would think the transition to home would be very different for them. For me,
Mm.
there were two other therapists I shared space with, but we really never saw each other in the office because we were always in session. So my husband's here, he works from home. And so it's really nice actually to have someone here, but I'm very intentional about social time with people. And we go out on the weekends. We usually have friends we do things with. And so I'm very intentional about that. But you're right. It's very easy to coop yourself up in your home office and not leave and just work and work, because the boundaries when you work from home are so much murkier than they are when you work in an office.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like you said, you need to be intentional about it, intentional about that social life, but also about those boundaries.
Yeah, it's very easy for the high achiever to just work around the clock. And I will get up really early if I have something that needs to be worked on. If I have a deadline, I have to give something to my marketing strategist or something, I will get up at 5 and I will do that. But I don't have to do it every day, which is really nice. And I never work after I'm done seeing clients, usually around 4. I never work in the evening because my brain is fried. I read for pleasure, or I sit outside, I go in my pool. I just very relaxing. So I have like a couple of hours really to wind down before dinner.
Yeah, exactly. Before dinner, when you're just off, you can just
Mhm.
read, enjoy the sun. And so I picked up from our conversation that you're almost turning 50, right?
Yes. Yep. This year.
Yeah. So I was wondering, just as kind of a last question for today, I was just wondering, what are you feeling will be the main theme turning 50 in your life?
Yeah. So it's a little surprising to acknowledge that I'm turning 50, mostly because I don't feel 50. And so I am, so my daughter will be in high school next year. So we have 4 more years until she is done with school, and then we'll be at university. So I feel like it is going to be a really nice decade for me. The 50 decade, the fifth decade is going to be a really nice opportunity for me to start the slowdown, really start the slowdown in my life and have more time. The thing that I love most is time with my family, my immediate family, my extended family. And so I could see that the theme for the fifth decade of my life is that I'm not going to have to miss all the fun things I want to do because I have to work. And so I really can feel that. I'm actually excited. We're having a really nice big birthday bash at the end of the year for my birthday.
Nice, a birthday bash. And seems like the theme is that work-life balance as an entrepreneur,
Mhm.
entering your best clinical years, right? 50s and 60s is what you said, those best years, but doing it in a more balanced way where you can have more maybe group programs or memberships and have more space for you to enjoy life, enjoy your family.
Yes. And contrary to popular belief, I do believe that life work balance exists. And I think it just looks different for everyone. And so, whatever your balance is, 60/40, 25/75, whatever it is, but I do believe that it exists. And I can attest to that because I am able to create that for myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And something I love that you said that I just want to highlight is that you said that some mornings you could wake up early if you really need to work on something, but it doesn't need to happen every day. So, for
Mhm.
my dear high achievers out there, it's nice to have that morning routine, wake up early, get stuff done, but it's not for every day. There are ups and downs. You need to also be able to go with that flow. If your body needs that extra rest or sleep, by all means go with that and don't get so hung up on like the time blocking or the daily morning routine and the schedule, right?
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I have really become aware of and leaned into is checking in with myself and checking to see that I am in the right mind body state in order to do whatever task is at hand. So let's creating content, let's say. And if there's an incongruence there, I don't do it at that time. And so, whereas historically it was like, if it's on the list and it has to be done today, and this is the only opportunity to do it, I need to do it.
Mm.
And what I've really learned is that it's the end product is never as good when I'm forcing it. B, I start to feel really resentful. So many people feel really resentful of their business, and we shouldn't, because it's we created it. Like it's all our choice. So we should not be setting up a scenario where we feel resentful of our own business. And so I have really become very sort of attuned to checking in with myself. Okay, so where am I in terms of starting to accomplish this task? And if I can't do it today, then gosh, I'll do it tomorrow. Nothing is that pressing, right? I'm not a surgeon, so nothing is that pressing. It's funny. I asked my husband he helps me out with things, and I asked him to sort of create all of these emails. So we're getting to send out these sort of promo emails. And he's like, what's the deadline on this? I'm like, I don't know. Like it could be tomorrow. It could be the next day. Like nothing is really that urgent. Right. So
Exactly.
when I really shift that paradigm, and believe me, I'm a high achiever through and through. But once I really start to shift that paradigm, gosh, it was just so like I really could give myself a break. And when you have self-trust, which I feel like most high achievers really need to cultivate, when you have a lot of self-trust, you just believe in yourself that you'll get it done. Like it's okay.
Yeah, it's gonna get done anyway, but better
Mhm.
to do it in a moment when you're feeling it, whereas doing it because it's on your list, because it's on your schedule, because you think you should do it, because you think there's a deadline. But really, like you said, nothing is that urgent. But it's kind
Mhm.
of a contrast to what we learn as entrepreneurs in the beginning of having a content calendar and putting all the things out and having that weekly newsletter every Friday or whatever it is. But then once, also for me, when I let that go, I was like, it's fine. I love it when I'm reading newsletters of the only newsletters I read are from people who send it every now and then and they don't have a fixed schedule and it comes from their own inspiration. Those are the ones that I enjoy reading, not the ones that come into my email like my mailbox every Monday, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I that was something when I just got really busy the last 3 months, and I just thought, you know what? I didn't really enjoy writing those anyway. And so I'm going to actually put that off. And I know, having an email list is really important when you're an online entrepreneur. And I thought, you know what, I'll get back to it. Like nothing really bad is going to happen. I think that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves as entrepreneurs, which to be successful and to do all of the things, which isn't really a very effective way to go about it. And for me, it's really about having resilience, being able to bounce back from things, having discernment, being able to decide like what's important and what's not, and
Mm,
not feeling like you have to do everything regardless of how important it is. So to me, those are some of the more important elements of entrepreneurship.
absolutely. And having those, whatever you put out there in the world, that it comes from inspiration and integrity and not from that pressure of a
Mhm.
deadline that you set yourself. So,
Yes.
wow, this talk was just so inspirational. And I always love it when it turns out, when we turn out talking about something that wasn't even my plan.
Uh-huh.
I was thinking about the pandemic and what you learned from it, but then just exploring this entrepreneurial journey as well and the balance that we create in it. So interesting. And Carrie, I'm going to put all your links in the show notes, but just tell us, where are you most active? Where can people find out more about you?
Yeah. So I am most active on Instagram and also LinkedIn. And people can find me on both of those. The content's fairly similar, except LinkedIn is much more long form. And yes, so you can add those to the show notes, and I actually have a nervous system regulation PDF that I will share with you that you could share with your listeners, because as high achievers, it's really good to have a nervous system regulation practice. It's very grounding, and you can repattern your nervous system so that it is no longer operating in chronic fight flight. We didn't talk about that, but that's sort of another piece of all of this. So yes, I will share that with your listeners.
Yeah, we can have a separate talk about that as a functional medicine geek here. I'd love to
Mhm.
give people that PDF, and that's the main thing that you regulating that nervous system, people knowing when to wind down and rest and digest. So, thank you so much, Carrie, for this inspirational talk today. And I'd love to stay in touch. Take care.
Thanks, Maya.
Hey Achievers, I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did recording it. Please, please, please subscribe and review my podcast. It would mean the world to me. See you in the next episode.